Hello and welcome to Center Ice Cardcast, your one-stop podcast shop for all things hockey cards. My name is Eric Andrews, also known in the hobby as Hammerhawks, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow hobbyist Aaron Goldstein, better known throughout the hobby as Crease Collector. So just to start things off for the episode, we just wanted to quickly update you guys on the lawsuit Leaf initiated against a player that we had mentioned in the last episode. So the player involved with that, his name is C.D. Lamb. He's a football player. And we thought that this was actually going to be a pretty interesting case and would probably drag out over a while. But the case has actually already been dropped and resolved, as Lamb ended up signing the remaining autographs that were outstanding from his commitment to Leaf. So, like I said, we kind of thought this was going to be an interesting story to keep tabs on for a while, but ended up being a pretty quick and easy, done and over with type of thing. So I guess that's good for all those people that had redemptions for his autographs. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that that has been resolved and just wanted to give that update. So then switching back into hockey cards, obviously, we're a hockey card podcast. We just wanted to talk about a few pickups that we have acquired of late. One for me and then actually two for Aaron this time. So I'll start with mine and then I'll shift to Aaron and let him take it away. But mine, I just got another Nicholas Hjalmarsson Premier Mega Patch over the weekend. And I purchased this one actually in early May from a seller in Taiwan on eBay, from all places. I don't know that I've ever purchased a card from Taiwan before. So that was just kind of interesting. There was a tracking number with the package, but it didn't work. Like the USPS doesn't track packages from Taiwan or something. It was really weird. And then I had to go pick it up at the post office because it required a signature or something. So just kind of a weird experience there, but always cool to acquire a card from somewhere you haven't before. So that was cool. And with that, I think that may or may not have potentially curbed some of the bidding on it a little bit. I ended up getting it for a really good price. Again, probably the location factored into that, especially given that the shipping cost was pretty high. So I was certainly happy about that because even with the shipping cost, I thought that it was a pretty good price for the card. It took a little bit over a month to receive the card. So, like I said, I bought it in early May and it just came. So it took a while for sure, but it's finally here and able to add that to my collection. That's the third chest logo piece that I have in hand and still have a couple incoming from Josh Packham as well. So once those two come in from Josh, I'll be up to 5. And still kind of slower going on the chest logo than I thought that it would be. But what can you do? You just pick up the ones that you see, and that's really all you can do. So that's my more notable pickup of late. And I'll throw it over to Aaron because I know he has gotten a couple of really exciting things in of late.
I definitely do. But first, to your point, that is an awesome addition. That project for you has been quite ongoing, as is many other mega patch stuff. So, they're always cool to see it get closer and closer to being done. Something I've always wanted to do. I've mentioned it to a couple collectors, but I'll mention it to you guys as well. But something I've always wanted to do was sort of map out where and maybe what card, if I can remember, from where I received it, kind of all over the world. Because if you've been in the hobby for any amount of time, you've probably realized that, the hobby does not localize just in your backyard. It's really is global. So your Taiwan story, Eric, kind of reminded me, I don't think I've received a card from Taiwan, but, definitely some other places where I didn't think cards would, I guess, come from. And so it always is cool to find out where our collections kind of come from. Of course, they're manufactured, but then after that, they go out to collectors and who knows where they end up. So it's kind of cool to see cards come from different places in the world into your collection. And as far as this collection goes, it's kind of one of those forever collections. So huge kudos to you on that. And it's really nice to see cards come from different places.
Yeah, it's cool you mentioned that. I was actually just looking on eBay a little while ago and just doing my normal searches. And I think it was a Nicholas Hjalmarsson trilogy signature pucks that I saw. And I looked at the listing for whatever reason and saw that the shipping price was really high. So I was like, this has got to be some irrational Canadian seller that thinks it costs $1,000
the
to ship
global
to the
shipping
US.
program or something
Yeah.
like that Canadians deal with sometimes.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, what province is this guy from that he thinks it costs so much to ship? And I scrolled down and the guy was actually from Greece of all places. So I don't
That's
think I've
super
ever
cool.
seen a card listed from Greece either. So that was just kind of an interesting international tidbit there as well. But anyway, back over to what you were saying.
Yeah, always cool to see cards from wherever they come from. Yeah, so one of my biggest pickups in the last little while, actually, I picked up another game used jersey. Pretty cool, quite rare, I guess. So in the 2014-15 season, Anroth was traded from the Sabres to join the Dallas Stars. Some hardcore Dallas fans, I'm sure, remember that. Played not bad for the Stars, and he was not re-signed. He joined LA the following season, but he went into about, I think, 12 games or so with the Stars. And so I managed to pick up, the actual jersey used in the majority of his time there. It is a white away jersey, set 3, I believe. And yeah, just a super cool addition. And for you guys who are big fans, you kind of know that I did mention an oddball picking up the roster sheet. And this jersey actually falls right in line with that, because that is actually the jersey that he wore during that fifth career shutout as well, with the Stars against Anaheim. And yeah, so it's pretty cool, to see these pickups kind of come back to back, all kind of being related to that cool game in his career. Obviously, a shutout is a big deal. And so yeah, the jersey is awesome. It has a bunch of like wear marks and things like that. Obviously, I'm a card person at heart, and so anytime I can get a game used jersey, and it's pretty cool. I definitely lose sight of not why jersey collecting is cool, but when I've received another jersey for my collection, this is my third. You definitely see why. How kind of intricate it is, and tracking down when it was used, things like that, photo matches. And so I definitely see why people really gravitate to that stuff, even though it's not the focal point of my collection. So definitely a really cool addition. Actually, I took your advice, Eric, and I asked, I forget his name, who I dealt with, but a fine guy from McGray, and I was able to get a really, really cool discount off of it. So definitely really helped with the purchase, of course. And because I had seen that jersey on their site, but like with their pricing, sometimes it makes it a little difficult. So to get a let's just say a severe discount, I was able to pick that up. So that was really nice. And yeah, it was a great addition for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's funny that you just picked up the roster card, from that game, and now
Great
a
timing.
few weeks later, boom, there's the jersey from the same game. So that's really cool. Like you said, this is your third jersey of him. So you now have the Sabres, the Kings, and the Stars. So you just got to find one of those Leafs jerseys to round out that collection.
Yeah, maybe someday.
So yeah, that's awesome that you're able to get it. And yeah, I know that sometimes, especially if a jersey has been sitting around on McGray for a while, they'll be willing to work with you on a price. So, I know, like you said, I'd thrown that idea out there, and luckily it worked out for you. So yeah, definitely an exciting pickup, and always fun seeing you add to that shutout collection.
No doubt, no doubt. And another cool addition that just came in quite recently as well. And this does relate to the main topic of the episode coming up in a few minutes, which is, of course, the President's Choice Solid Gold Review with the man himself, Dr. Brian Price. So stay tuned for that in a second. So this comes from that product. I was able to, to pick up the very new and very cool jumbo memorabilia card from that product. For Enroth, it is really interesting because he has actually 2 cards in that set. Most players just have 1. So with the help of Kurt, we've known him for a good few years now. Him and many others broke it on release day and managed to pick up the Enroth card that I'm talking about. It is a 1-of-1 card, like I said, jumbo memorabilia, and it has actually a really cool like logo piece from the inner glove from the CCM Premier set that Enroth had. And so it's a really cool CCM presented by LaFave kind of branded piece of equipment there. So it's really, really cool. Us goalie people will know that not as much with CCM, but definitely LaFave has been a huge brand in the goalie market for so long. And so to get like kind of a piece of that is really, really cool. I love the Fave gear, so to get a cool branded piece is really, really cool.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously the story of you getting it from Kurt is awesome, because you sometimes struggle to acquire cards. You might see something, but someone isn't sure if they want to move it, or whatever it might be. And maybe a card is pulled and you just never know about it, you never see it, no one ever posted online, whatever it might be. So the fact that a good friend of ours and Kurt pulled the card, and as soon as he reads the name on the card, Jonas Enroth, immediately, boom, he's thinking, I'll work out a deal with Aaron for this card. That's just super cool. And it's just always awesome hearing about stories like that, collectors being willing to help each other out and being willing to do whatever it takes to get a card to the right home, and just being able to work it out in that way. So I know when Kurt pulled that card, he was really excited that he got it for you. And just cool that to see his excitement and know that he would find the perfect home for it, just be excited in that way. So yeah, I guess you probably hoped to be able to acquire at least one of the two Enroth cards from the product. So the fact that you were so quickly and easily able to acquire one of them, I'm sure that felt pretty good.
Yeah, it made it fun. I mean, when Kurt landed the card, he messaged us both actually, or I think he messaged maybe even the podcast account, or maybe he just tagged us both, but just kind of knowing that either he's going to connect with me first or he's going to connect with you first to tell him, to get a hold of him about this card. But either way, he just knew, right away as soon as he pulled it, it will be made available to me, which was really appreciated, of course. Yeah, like with those big cards, especially with a big, high-end product like solid gold, you don't know who's breaking it or where they are, and when or if you'd snagged a card that you were looking at specifically. So this awesome 1 of 1 made it home, I guess, and we'll see if I find the other one. It'll probably be quite difficult, because I know that a lot of people do break this and keep the cards in them. Totally fair, but like I'm just glad that I can get at least one of the two. So I guess the hunt stays alive.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned it's from the inner part of one of his gloves, and it's a LA Kings glove, correct?
Yeah, I was with the LA Kings when he wore that model of gear.
Very cool. Yeah, it's awesome when you can, specifically match a piece, to a team, a season, a specific piece. So, that's really cool too. Just obviously he wasn't with the Kings for, a super long time. So it makes it a little bit easier to kind of figure it out. But, still always cool when you can do that for sure. So, like we said, awesome that you're able to pick that card up for your collection so quickly and so easily. And again, huge shout out to Kurt for being willing to work with you and get that card to your collection. So with that, we will turn it over to the official review of 2021-22 President's Choice Solid Gold. It was released on May 17th. And yeah, just an awesome product. In case you guys don't know a whole lot about it, obviously we'll go more in depth in a few minutes here with Dr. Price. But, just another amazing product that Dr. Price put out. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Again, we'll go through all of that here with him. So joining us now to discuss all things solid gold is the man himself, Dr. Brian Price from President's Choice Trading Cards. Dr. Price, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Always a pleasure.
So just to kick things off, kind of just some background about the product, maybe just talk about the inspiration behind solid gold.
Well, solid gold really was supposed to be just a 3-card product with going through all of the different player files, memorabilia files. I found all kinds of great stuff. And so I decided to make 3 high-end memorabilia cards, the most being out of 3, lot being out of 2, and a tremendous number of 101s. And I was going to do 500 boxes and was ready to go. And then things changed with a lot of emails and messages that I got from collectors who didn't get an opportunity to participate in the Vezina collection. Either the timing was not right for them, or the cost was not right, or they didn't react soon enough and it was sold out before they could. And they said, why don't you give us a chance to buy a Vezina card? And I was just hadn't printed boxes yet. So I had the ability to reduce the 2 cards in the box as the memorabilia cards and add a Vezina card. And that's how the whole product was formed. And then we moved forward.
That's awesome. What did you want to do? Because obviously, like both products, when talking about the Vezina collection and solid gold, had some Vezina pieces. What did you want to do, like when it comes to differentiating kind of both products from the Vezina collection to, two solid golds?
Well, I couldn't do a heck of a lot and get like there's 300 boxes of these, so 300 cards I had to put in. So the first thing I took a look at was how many individual Vezina cards am I going to make, and then how many Vezina trophy winners do I have that I have memorabilia for, and the numbers just seemed to jive that I wound up with 50 different cards, 6 each. So what I did was, I think it's, you know what happens, you guys, I'm working on a new project now. You know more about this past project than I do because you study it. But so I think there was around 54 or 55 of the trophy winners, and that led me to having 6 or 7 more of the Vezina cards. I made everything out of 6. So that sort of set exactly the goals where I was going to get. Then I had to decide what was going to be just a Vezina piece and what was going to be a Vezina trophy winner, and we went from there. And then, of course, there was a lot of time and effort and debate spent on what the Vezina trophy winner cards were going to look like, because I had to have a combination of a nice size piece of Vezina, a nice size piece of the trophy winner, and even though a lot of the trophy winners were vintage, and I couldn't get a piece as large as I could for, let's say a Vasilevsky. And my concept was to make it look similar to, but not identical to, the 2001 Be a Player memorabilia Vezina product. So it was a whole thing just sort of jumbled into one, and I went out. I don't know exactly how many, maybe up to 10, but I think about 8 different collectors who I respect their opinions, and they gave me their opinions, and I tried to be faithful to myself, and but also roll into what they wanted, and most of them were pretty pleased when the product was released. And there's the odd one who had a difference of opinion, and that's fine. Maybe I'll make a different card for him one day. But so I was pretty pleased with the way the results came out. And a lot of the people who, as I say, couldn't get the Vezina collection now have cards of Vezina. And there was an interesting as well, there was a number of people who bought the Vezina collection who didn't buy this product, or they didn't buy it from us. They may have bought it from a couple of our distributors, and that's okay too. So everything has worked out. So it has become, it's solid gold. And I like what's happened with a lot of the memorabilia cards that I made, that I was, which was the inspiration to start the project to begin with. And a lot of them people are buying and breaking for. But what's even nicer is when I see people getting it in a box and knowing where the home should be, and doing a deal with them, and another deal with here, and that 3-part deals. It's almost like trading players in baseball. And I think that's great. I mean, that's one of my inspirations to stay involved in this business, to watch collectors like you folks do what you do. So this one collects Shanahan, so I got to get her a Shanahan, and but I collect a so-and-so. She hasn't got one of those, so she goes and gets one of those, and they make it's just great. It's great to watch. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen and heard about a couple of deals like that. I know Aaron was involved in a deal like that, so if he wants to share about that later, feel free.
Yeah, like it's funny you mention it, collectors reaching out to different collectors. Our friend Kurt hit this in his break, and so it's the Enroth CCM.
Well, you know why I slide those in every so often.
Once or twice, right?
I slide them in there just to, I've got a lot of his equipment. Yeah, Buffalo, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Slide those in just to make sure.
It's great. I mean, I think we were discussing through email, and you do have one of his jerseys, right? I believe that's newer, like an LA Kings one, I think.
Hang on one second. I'm gonna if I can do this without blocking the screen, I think I can. Hang on, let's just see. I just got something new, and again, it was because of you. Let's take a look in the cards. Here we go. Memorabilia purchases. Oh, you'll like this. Yeah, I got a Los Angeles Kings jersey and a trapper and a blocker for the new product I'm doing.
Hey, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, like some patch pieces or whatever you're going to create.
There'll be a nameplate,
Right, the nameplate. I thought it might have squeaked into solid gold, but that might have been wishful thinking. But yeah, a nameplate card would be cool. I don't have one of those, or I
Complete logo,
do,
the
but not from
NHL
LA.
crest. Do you have an NHL crest?
No, no, don't have one of those. So
You're in trouble.
I,
That's good.
yeah. So thanks in advance. I'm not sure if it'll be. Me and Eric were talking about this. If you are planning a goalie specific product, I'm not sure if it's going to be kind of off your site or if it'll be like a box release. Yeah, we're not.
The plan right now is to be a box product. Everyone was telling me you got to come out with between the pipes again.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't own that name any longer, so I couldn't do that. So we've come up with a different name for it, and it's going to be a while before it comes out because there's going to be a lot of cards in it, and it
Oh,
takes
for sure.
we're just little guys, so it takes us a long time.
No
And so
doubt.
you can just walk into our office, especially when we're cutting the wooden sticks, and you just can tell there's stick cutting going on. You don't know where, but you can smell it the minute you walk in the door. Yeah, some of the composites aren't too bad, but the wooden sticks are really bad.
Oh, I'm sure. We'll leave that new product
Yep.
news, for later. I don't want you to spoil it too much. As far as the next question goes, another one that was frequently talked about, one of the new sets that really stood out was the handwritten word set featuring Lord Stanley himself and cut up words from a document that he wrote. Those are incredibly unique, and it's definitely something that I've never seen before. Not even something that you've seen before, and it's something that you decided to be like, hey, I haven't seen that, but I'm going to put it in there. So I'll let you talk about the inspiration behind that. Just
So
an incredible set.
I had for a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5, a document from Stanley, a derby, whatever you want to call them. Depends on what time period. But I had it, and I had used the autograph for a paper cut, and about, I guess it's about a year and a half ago, I bought another one in an auction, and now I had 2 of them, and I was going to use the Stanley autograph again for the paper cut in this product, and I did. So I was just putting away the second letter where the first was. So for the future, I'd have both together, and I wouldn't have to look through the masses of papers I have in my office. And I said to myself, there's something we can do here. And that's when I came up with the idea of cutting all these things. And what we did was we probably had between 200 or 300 words in both documents, but not all of them you could use because some of them go down to the word below, and you don't want to do that and cut off. So we just said, how many can I get that are good, solid words that can be cut properly? And I think we came up with something like 90 or something like that. And then the question was, do you make or 100, I forget, or do you make one of ones or not? And I think that's where we made the idea of having the 2 different kinds, the one of ones, the other ones would probably be out of 9 or something. So there's probably 10 of each. You'd know better than I. I could look it up, but you probably know better than I. And so I just thought about it, and then my graphic designer, I think, came up with a stunning design. I think they really look nice. And I'm pretty pleased because people saw them when we were advertising for the product in the sales sheet, but they really didn't get the real feel of it until people started to get them. And I got a lot of great texts, a lot of great emails, and a lot of great messages on Facebook about them. So it worked. Sometimes you get ones that work, and sometimes you get one that really don't. This one that worked.
For sure, yeah. It's such a unique idea, and like you guys were saying, just something that hasn't been done before. And obviously, that's something that you're well known for is pushing the boundaries of what cards are and what they can be. One thing, like you mentioned, I was interested to see kind of what the response from collectors would be. And I know, like you said, leading up to the release, there were some people that weren't so sure about them, and probably still are, unsure about them, and some people that were really excited for them and still are excited about them. Maybe what did you kind of anticipate that response being, knowing what the cards would be like and how significant and special they were, comparing that to that response that you've seen from collectors?
So again, when I first decided to do it, until it came out, I didn't have a clue. I just, this could have fallen flat on its face. Then I realized that people saw it on the sales sheet, they had a question mark around it. They weren't sure yes or no. But when they got it and they realized that not everybody is able to afford to buy, or not everyone's lucky enough to pull a Stanley Derby, whatever you want to call him, autograph, cut signature. But these are affordable, and you really do have a Stanley piece of his script. So a lot of people are sort of saying that it's the next best thing at a much lower price. And so they're pretty happy with it. It's also one that you really don't have to go get a full set of to accomplish anything. Now we used, different methods of the individual cards. So there is a sort of a set there, but a lot of people are totally satisfied with just having one of them. And that's great. That's how it works. So it's a question mark of not everyone needs to get this set. Not everyone needs to get all 9 of X or whatever. They can just get one, or you always have the set builders who want to build a set of everything, and that's good too. So it worked. As I say, it worked out nicely. I wasn't sure, but I was willing to take a chance. I've done that before, and as I say, I've had some winners and had some losers.
That's really cool hearing just the mindset behind creating something new, and the honesty of saying, hey, this might fall flat, but I'm going to try it, and why not?
I liked it from day one, but that usually doesn't mean.
I thought it was so cool. Like I just said a couple minutes ago, like it's something that I'd never seen, and just the historical, this thing is a historical document. I'm not sure what exactly it was about, but regardless, it is a historical document. So to have pieces of that in people's collections, I mean, how could you not like that, right?
Well, the interesting thing was it happened as I was just putting it away so I wouldn't lose it. I was just putting it, I had one for a number of years. This was my second.
Mm-hmm.
I was just putting them away in a place where it's a certain binder that had other cut signatures in it, and I filed it with images of all the paper cuts that I've made of Lord Stanley over the years. And it just said, you know what, I can do something with this. And I pulled it out and away we went.
That's really cool.
If I didn't have a creative day, if it was a different kind of day, that could be just sitting there now and forget about it.
Exactly. If you had a busy day, or it could have been just locked away, and there you go.
Happens a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. Another cool set, you touched on it a little bit, the cut signatures. Obviously, the Lord Stanley cut was in there, but just the entire set on its own. Could you tell us a little bit about, the process of putting together, a list of names for, a cut signature kind of project, and kind of like what makes those cards, so special?
You know what? It's getting more and more and more and more difficult to put together a vintage paper cut set these days, because it's getting more difficult to get the cut signatures is one, but I also now have so many collectors who are asking me to make made to orders for them, putting complete cut signature sets together. And so the question is, do I hold on to some of them for a product and an insert set, or do I give them what they want and do it? So this particular one, I think we added a Turk Rhoda, a Jacques Plante, which is always popular, a Lester Patrick, which is always popular. And so we had enough to make it worthwhile. I'm now doing the set we'll talk about later, the All Goalie set. And when you look at that, you need a Jacques Plante, you need a Terry Sawchuk, you need George Hainsworth, and a lot of these guys, it's another Turk Rhoda. You can think of the great goalies they're very, very difficult to get. A Pelle Lindbergh. Pelle Lindbergh is like almost impossible, especially there's a huge premium when his signature is small enough to be used on a trading card. So you get a big 8x10 and he signed Pelle Lindbergh. That's great. That's worth X. But you get a little one, which should be less, is probably worth 3X, because now all of a sudden you have all the trading card collectors and makers trying to bid for it. So it's getting more and more difficult. The auction houses are getting more and more for their cut signatures. The collectors are hoarding them and putting them into collections and not wanting to trade for them. And then I, as an individual manufacturer, I've got two mouths to feed. I've got the ones that say, hey, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy whenever you get them. And then I've got this list saying, hey, I need 10 for this product and 10 for this product. So it's getting harder and harder. But this was a good one, and of course, it was the cherry on top was the Derby, the Lord Stanley.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always cool seeing any cut autograph, from an old timer. And, obviously the big names like Lord Stanley are just, show stopping pieces no matter what. So always cool seeing that stuff. Another insert set from the product that grabbed my attention specifically was the triple memorabilia set. Obviously everybody knows I'm always down for a sweet triple memorabilia card. And I specifically love the design with those cards. I just think that it works really nicely. The layout, kind of the art driven image of the player, and then either three memorabilia pieces of the same player or three different players, each with their own piece. So what can you tell us about that insert set and what went into building those?
Really, really nothing special, serious. Here's how it evolved. I was going through to do the one by one pieces of the emblem and the number and the tag and all the larger ones. I was going into the memorabilia bags of each of the players, and I was popping out some small half by halves, and they were really nice ones. And I said, I gotta use these. So I would have, was in Iserman's bag, and I saw three good, emblems that were half by half, and so I just put them aside in a little, one of those little sleeves you put inside a top loader, the little plastic sleeves. And I put a staple in the end, put Iserman on it. Next thing I know, I had a whole bunch of them in a row, but I didn't have enough for, let's say, I'm not sure he was in there, but as an example, a pot fan. So I'd say, well, wait a minute. I got a Los Angeles pot fan. I've got a Toronto pot fan. I've got a Boston Bruins pot fan. Let's see if I have one of each of those. So that's how the whole thing generated in terms of having one player with three different teams, having one player with an emblem, a number, a jersey, or a pad, a glove, and however they worked out. But it was always, the reason it happened was I was going through and getting their big pieces and getting into when you pull out 7 or 8 bags out of a file of the player, and you see all kinds of things. You see, stuff that you're not looking for. But like today, as an example, I was going in for this new product, and I found a bag of cut memorabilia that I bought from Pacific. Remember them? And it's all the days of Pacific. So it's, I don't know, when did they go to business? In the early 2000s. And a lot of the guys are guys that you never heard of anymore. They're long gone. But all of a sudden, I needed for a card for the Boston Bruins, and I found a bag of Byron Dafoe. And I had nothing left of Byron Dafoe, and there he was. So as you go through this stuff, you find things, and that's how that sort of happened. And it happened so often and so much. I got so excited about it. It became one of the better insert sets, and it wasn't on the checklist. It wasn't there at all. It just sort of happened by looking through stuff.
That's really cool. And as far as the Defoe stuff, I know there's quite a few collectors still of his kicking around out there. So I'm sure they'll be excited when they hear that.
Yeah, I hadn't been in that Pacific box in a long, long time. And when I found Defoe in his file, and it had all of the information, Pacific was kind of interesting. They cut their memorabilia mostly in half by half, and they put it in envelopes that said single color, double color, number, emblem. So of course, who wants a single color or a double color if you have numbers and emblems, which are really, really cool. So I went through the Defoe, and I found some great stuff, and I said, I gotta go back and up on somewhere on my guy brought down this box, and it had Pacific on the side, and I started going through it. And when you're doing goalies, all of a sudden you have Mark Denis and David Abishar and Jocelyn Thibault, stuff that I've run out of a long, long, long time ago. And whatever little I had left, I probably Leaf got it in the transaction. And now there's bags and bags of this stuff with some great pieces of memorabilia on it. So it was like very interesting to find that kind of stuff. And so all this evolved out of this triple memorabilia thing. So it's a lot of good came out of just a fluke.
It's always great to hear those kind of behind the scenes stories. I'm not sure if this would have a behind the scenes story per se, but it's very unique nonetheless. The boarding cards featuring game used boards autographed by Gordie Howe, that one kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, with Gordie and him not being with us anymore. Can you tell us a little bit about how those came to be? Definitely not overnight. It's definitely something, like you said, maybe found memorabilia per se.
Yeah, I did those before. Okay, I did those in Motown Madness, and Gordie signed and Ted Lindsay signed, and they were both alive at the time, obviously, and a lot of other guys signed. And I had a bunch left over, and I had about 12 Gordie Howes, and I said, how can I make this work? I mean, so I decided to do 9 of them. That was a pretty easy thing to figure out. We'll do 9. Plus the fact that when I do 9 card sheets. So one sheet, 9 cards. And I said, how do I make them 1-on-1s? And the answer was to use 9 images. And so that's exactly what we did. So I took this, again, stuff that I had, and I put it in there. Now, if I can figure out a way of doing Lindsay and Al Arbor and Alex Del Vecchio, I got lots of that stuff left over as well. But this was just some stuff I could take right off the stuff that was just inventory that was never going to be used, and I think made them into 9 great cards.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Those are, like you said, we've seen them done before, but they're still just, eye-catching because you don't see board cards all that often. So
I hope if you've seen them before, I hope that was Motown Madness. I hope that was another one of my first.
Yep, for sure.
You may know bet more than I, but I remember when I bought those boards, what a junk. 90% of the boards had to be thrown out. They were so decrepit. And what was available was the plastic part of the board that was around the top rim and around the bottom rim where the puck hits the board is to the bottom. All the rest of the wood was like, there were bugs in that wood. That came into the warehouse and out. We cut out what we could use, and the rest was like gone.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Another notable insert set, we've already talked about it a little bit, but the Jumbo Memorabilia Set obviously features all kinds of different memorabilia from a wide range of players and eras. So it's, kind of just seemingly a huge grab bag of amazing pieces from over the years, kind of documenting hockey history throughout. What can you tell us about that set and maybe how some of those various pieces used were selected?
Yeah, you know what? How they were selected? Anyone that was big enough to put in that card, because they're all extremely colorful. They all have, they're all extremely unique. And I just went again through every goalie that I had and went through all their files and just took. Now, again, we had some, I'm sorry, I said goalie. I didn't mean that. I meant player. I'm doing the goals exactly the same thing this morning, except with just goalies. Every player that we wanted to be in this set, who was qualified to be in this set, we went through their bags inside their files and tried to pull out 1, 2, or 3 of every one of them that could be that size. And I have a little template I use. I stick it over top of it, and then we go from there because they're always so colorful. I mean, I don't know if you saw, and there's a little bit of an aside, but I don't know if you saw my Solitaire 1.0, 2.0. I did that, and I cut up the NASCAR racing cars, driver suits. And of course, they have 8,000 crests on them from head to toe. And they are some of the most stunning cards I ever did because they're all so colorful. And I did jumbo memos for those as well. So these were, again, pull it out if there was an Iserman in there, big enough piece of the Detroit crest, or the hem where it talked about the game use, what set it was, or even a My Gray tag in it showing you the number of the purchase. Any one of those works for me, and they were fun to do.
Very, very cool. I mean, obviously, when you see someone pull one, it really is, at least for me, at least, the hit of the box. When someone shares a break, I'm just like, what does the jumbo one look like? Quick.
It doesn't necessarily, it's not important who the player is, really.
Not always. It's just, if the piece is cool, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So amazing. I'm not sure if you can speak to this yet, but do you have any future releases planned, for solid gold, or was that kind of like a one and done, or we'll see what happens?
Well, I'm going to have to find a replacement for the third card because I can't do another Vezina. So I'll have to wait a while and see if the solid goldness of that product, the non-Vezina part of that product, is collectible enough. But the answer may be no, because I don't know if I can duplicate that quality of memorabilia for those players. We really tried to choose the best that we had. So if I'm going in after we chose the best, that means I'm getting the second best. And I don't know if that's such a good idea. We'll figure out something. I mean, listen, we may come up with another set of cards that every card has 8 pieces of memorabilia on it. I don't know. That is a way for me to use the little pieces.
True. You could call it, if it's the second best, you could call it solid silver. And the third card can be Jonas Enroth cards. Problem solved.
There we go. I think I'm the only one that would like that, but hey, it's ideas.
And I could call the 8 card set an Octomania.
There we go.
There you go.
Look at these ideas. The wheels are turning, right?
We did something like that once. I think we called something Decadence, and we had 10 pieces on a card.
I think that's pretty much all we have for solid gold, but I know we've been kind of alluding to, the goalie inspired product that you're working on. Is there anything else that you'd want to share about that product?
Well, it's, you know what, like I said, it's not everyone is a goalie collector, but the goalie collectors are collectors.
Definitely.
And I'm going to do a box product. I don't want to put another one. I was in a situation once before with my what do we call it?
Best in net.
Best in net.
Right. Yeah, there was a.
And I didn't like the way that worked. I didn't like the fact that if a card was out of 10 and I had one in the store, someone bought that one, they were getting another one, but the picture was of a different one. I didn't like the way it was. And then if I was I did 3,000 cards, I wasn't gonna put 3,000 images on. So I didn't like the whole idea of the thing. So I won't do that again. So we're gonna do a box set, either 3 or 4 cards per box. I know that a lot of the boxes now are in the $400 and $500 ranges. Of course, my 2 that include a vest, and I had to be in that price range. But if I do something else, I'd like to keep it below $200. And that's like the Game U Sticks and the Game U Sticks update. That was a lower price. So we'll probably be in a 4 card basis. And over the past, while I was down south, so I started in October and just ended recently, I was just buying like crazy sticks, equipment, jerseys, and I got a lot of good stuff. As a matter of fact, I got Vasilevsky's pads and gloves from the 2019-20 Stanley Cup year. So I got some really good stuff. And so we're going to do something called In the Crease, because I can't use between the pipes. I came as close as I possibly could. And just today I was working on the jumbo memorabilia. And when you have brand new jerseys, there's all kinds of jumbo memorabilia, because there's the name in the back, not the name of the player, but the name of the manufacturer of the jersey. And then you've got patches, patch crests. Then you have occasionally, there's a team that's celebrating something. They have another crest on the front. And so the jumbo memorabilia looked good. One of the other people in the office was taking the sticks, the tape off the top of the sticks for the holding the stick. And Chris, who, I don't know if you met Chris or not, but Chris in my office, he was doing the all-time winners. So we're taking the top 72 all-time winners that we have memorabilia for, and then we're going to put the number of games that they won on the card with an asterisk for any player that's still playing, because his number will change. We're doing 300 winners with die cut of one of the zeros in the 300. There's a lot of really good insert sets. There's about 24 insert sets. We're doing one of vintage players called Pioneers. So that'll be the goalies of the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. And decades, almost the same thing, but we take that right up to the 2010. A lot of quads. International Influence is a quad. Decades is a quad. There's quite a few quads of franchise history, which is for players of a team from the beginning, early goalies to the current goalies. And so I don't know how long it's going to take. I can't even think of when the release date is going to be, because we've got all our designs, we've got all our memorabilia, but now we got to make the cards and cut up the memorabilia and do whatever. So who knows? Anyone wants to come and work for the summer, we certainly can use someone. But so that'll be the next release. And then after that, who the heck knows? I think we're going to do a solitaire 2.0 update which will mean we take all the insert sets and add more players to it. And we bought a lot of good basketball stuff over the past year. Still have trouble with football. The jerseys aren't very good looking to make cards in. And then when you look at the price and you say, geez, I can't really get much out of it other than some single colored jerseys for that amount of money, I sort of hesitate away. But you can't keep away. If you're doing a multi-sport, you can't keep away from football totally. But we got some great wrestling stuff. So we've got some good stuff for that. So that'll probably come out after that. And then who knows? Who knows what we'll all find in the box somewhere in the warehouse.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. I think that's all the questions we have for you this time. So always grateful for your time and all the insight that you provide for us.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime.
All right. So obviously always a pleasure being able to talk to Dr. Price about all the cool stuff that he's doing. And, obviously who better to talk about those cards than the man himself. So always appreciate his time, of course, as always. And one thing I just thought of that we forgot to talk about with him, I know there have been some discussion about this on social media, people pulling those trophy winner cards and thinking that they work the same as the trophy winner cards from Vezina collection, where, obviously, like Dr. Price said, this year, the trophy winner cards are numbered out of 6, whereas in Vezina collection, they were numbered out of 5. And in Vezina collection, how it worked is 4 of the 5 were leather pieces, and then 1 of the 5 was a cloth piece. So people kind of just figured that's how it would work for solid gold as well, with 5 being leather and 1 being cloth. Like I said, we didn't mention that with him, but that is actually not true. As I was told by Dr. Price during the development of the product, there is at least 1 cloth piece, for each of the trophy winner cards. So, it's certainly possible that some players just have 1 of the 6 that feature Vezina cloth, but some of them do have multiples. So just wanted to include that little tidbit, since I know that's a little important detail that some people might not know about. So just wanted to make note of that. But yeah, I mean, just such a cool product. There's so much just really unique stuff in it. There's really amazing pieces, in the jumbo memorabilia set, pad buckles and really nice patches and, whatever you can imagine, a cool memorabilia card being, it's in that set. So, just a ton of really cool cards all throughout the product, and awesome hearing some of the backstories behind some of those cards too. So definitely appreciate Dr. Price's time and him sharing his insights about that product for sure. So shifting gears a little bit, we wanted to just briefly touch on 2020-21 Upper Deck Stature as well, since that just came out recently. It released on May 25th. And Stature, it's a second-year product. It first came out in 1920. And even though it's a relatively new product, it's one that pretty quickly grabbed people's attention, and people have just really enjoyed it. And for good reason too. I mean, the cards are just absolutely stunning. I know for both of us, myself and Aaron, we have cards from 1920 Stature in our collections, and those are cards that we really enjoy. And the newest iteration of Stature in 2021 certainly repeated a lot of the great things that were done in that inaugural release. So, we won't go super in depth just because the product really is largely similar to that inaugural release from 2019-20, but just wanted to make note of a few things. Like I said, a lot is similar, but there were a couple of minor changes with the insert sets. So in 1920, the veteran themed insert was called Esteemed. That has been changed this year to Gravitas, which is just, an interesting name, kind of catches your attention. And then for the rookie themed insert, in 1920, it was Rookie Reliance, and that has been changed to Protege. So, just kind of things to note there. I kind of like that. They're more interesting names. They're cooler sounding names, but the same general concept, highlighting veteran players and rookies. So cool that they kept the concept, but just tweaked them to make them a little bit, feel a little bit fancier with the name. So I like that change for sure. One thing that I did want to make note of, it's kind of more of an unfortunate thing. There is unfortunately a widespread issue throughout the product with the autographs on the autograph cards bubbling. And what that means is essentially it when you see it, if you don't know what that means, but basically the ink just kind of doesn't fully stick to the card. So it kind of, instead of having that really solid line, it kind of just like shrinks and shrivels up, and it's not, a solid, strong signature. So unfortunately, for whatever reason, there's a pretty big issue with that throughout the product. I would assume that's just because for whatever reason, the markers that were used combined with the material of the card and on the surface of the card just for whatever reason didn't pair well. And it's not necessarily Upper Deck's fault. It's not the player's fault. I've seen comments online, oh, why can't the players just buy better markers? Well, that's not how it works. Upper Deck provides the players with the markers to use. And I will say it's not on every card. I have seen some cards that did turn out really nicely. The autographs are really bold and strong, and it wasn't a problem for whatever reason. So I don't know if it was just a bad batch of markers that they happened to get this time, and or who knows what it might be. But I did just want to make note of that, that unfortunately a lot of the autographs do have a pretty noticeable bubbling issue. So that's, in my opinion, kind of like the only downside of the product. Like we said earlier, all of the cards in the product are just beautiful, great designs, and just the construction of the card, they kind of have like a clear coat on them, and combined with the foil board and all the bright colors and stuff, it just works really nicely, and they're just really nice looking cards. So even though it's very similar to that inaugural release, did just want to touch on it since it is such a beautiful product, and one that we've certainly enjoyed seeing a lot from. Aaron, is there anything that you'd want to touch on with Stature real quick?
I kind of like how there wasn't much change. I know that's kind of like a controversial subject, but I mean, I like how we can kind of look forward to having, like a living product. I know last podcast you mentioned living sets that kind of continue on, and I really like that concept. But, a living product that maybe doesn't change in design year to year as much. I kind of like the idea of that if it's done well. And I think for a product like Stature, it's one that if you saw this 5 years down the road, you would still agree that, man, like those are some really nice looking cards. And, it would involve player collectors, set collectors, if they want to do the base run every year, like something like that. It would kind of do something that we see, with Series 1 or Series 2, but obviously kick it up a notch in terms of, the quality of cards available and just from a design perspective as well. So I kind of like that it looked the same in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely truth there. And you're talking more about kind of the build of the product. Obviously, the designs themselves are different. That's one thing I didn't mention is I feel like in the 1920 release, a lot of the designs were fairly basic. They kind of went for a more simplistic look, whereas this year I think they, kind of added some more to the designs and just kind of made them, almost stand out a little bit more. I know especially with the base cards in 1920, they just had a very simple border, kind of around the edges, and that was about it. Whereas this year there's a lot more going on, and even though it is, definitely different, it catches your attention in a good way, and it just worked out really nicely. So don't want to go too crazy in depth on Stature since it is largely the same like we've said, but just a beautiful product, and one that like I said, we've really enjoyed over the last couple of years. So glad to see it back, and glad to see it kind of take that next step in its progression and build on those designs while still staying true to what it was in 1920. So definitely cool. And yeah, I don't know, I think that pretty much wraps it up. There was a lot packed into this episode, even though the big part was the solid gold review. So with that, as always, please be sure to follow us on social media. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Centerized Cardcast, and on Twitter at Centerized CC. Please also be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss a future episode. Until next time on Centerized Cardcast, keep collecting those hockey cards.